After a lifetime of dodging accountability, the legal system does appear to finally be catching up to Donald Trump. Of course, the big question that remains as we await his arraignment is just what exactly the charges in Manhattan are, how strong those charges and other cases in the works might be, and of course, ultimately, could we see a conviction of the ex-president? Charles Coleman is a civil rights attorney who served as the prosecutor in the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office. Jeremy Saland is a criminal defense attorney who served as an assistant district attorney in the trial division of the Manhattan DA's office, and both join me now. Good to have you both here. I want to start on something I talked about with Jonathan Dienst, which is the motion by his lawyers not to let cameras in, which I just think is so fascinating. This guy who's utterly, pathologically addicted to attention, right? Completely. They come in to say, no, it's going to be a circus. You guys work as defense attorneys now. You've worked as prosecutors in the past. What do you make of that as people who've worked in those courtrooms?
I think it's a matter, Chris, of Donald Trump having always been able to control the narrative in the public space. And now he is, as you alluded to, in a space that is new, that is different, and that is out of his control. And he does not want those images. He does not want that video. He does not want those messages being communicated to the public where they see him at the mercy of someone else, at the mercy of the court, in a way that makes him look weak as a defendant. And so that's really what it's about, in my eyes, not wanting to let go of the ability to control the narrative in this space.
I agree with that, but I would also say his counsel is probably petrified. They must be frightened that he will lose control, and they don't want to see that happen in the courtroom. He thrives off of that chaos, but when he is a center of that chaos, that doesn't work for him. It's manipulating others that works for him.
You know, there's also the fact that you mentioned his counsel. There's a new attorney who's been tapped, and, Trump's lawyers always need to get some crazy bedrock retainer thing worked out ahead of time because he has a history of not paying his legal help or anyone. This is a guy, he's hired a top white-collar criminal defense lawyer, former federal prosecutor Todd Blanche, as his lead counsel to handle this indictment. One thing that's strange to me is everyone around Trump always talks constantly. They're tweeting, Instagram, whatever the social media is, they're on cable news. It just seems not like a great call legally at this point. What do you think?
To change counsel?
No, to be talking all the time. To run your mouth constantly.
It's never a good move. It's not a good for Michael Cohen. It's not a good move for Donald Trump. You're just creating impeachment material and a means and a mechanism to be cross-examined later with all sorts of inconsistencies.
I mean, have you ever seen anyone talk this much?
No, and I think to the point about Michael Cohen, as a former prosecutor, stepping away from Donald Trump and his counsel, every time he got in front of the camera, I just wondered,
could you imagine the heartburn in that office?
Why are you doing this? You are potentially blowing this case before we even get the grand jury a chance to vote for it. And I think that was another example of just all of the conversation, a cacophony of just mess surrounding this prosecution.
I have to say, I mean, I'm a journalist, so I love it when people talk, right? But the other part of me just, who has like some sort of general judgment as a human being is like, it is always an option to shut up. You could just shut your mouth. Like, you could do that, but no one can around.
Some people can, some people can't, right? He's his own Colonel Jessup, if we were watching A Few Good Men.
Right.
He doesn't have that ability, Donald Trump.
But it also, at a certain point, I mean, you got him, going after Bragg, on Truth Social, he went after the judge. Again, all this stuff is so outside the bounds of normal, obviously, for the hundreds of cases you guys worked, but maybe not.
Yes and no. It's obviously abnormal that you have someone that has a platform that is this large and this significant. It is not necessarily unheard of to have a defendant who has a lot to say about the judge and the prosecutor who's prosecuting. The difference is they literally don't have millions of followers across social media. Now, there have been cases, and I've tried some, where you have a situation where a defendant has made threats to you, actual physical threats, which requires a security detail for a specified amount of time. That actually happens. And I think that, people can't underestimate the severity of that and its significance. But one of the things that I'm concerned with and watching is that Donald Trump, the more he talks about this, if you see the impact take place, he is opening himself up to a gag order from this judge at some point in time.
What do you think?
In terms of the gag order, I think that's correct. though there's a little bit of a concern here. This is a case of public interest, and this is a case where Donald Trump is using this as a mechanism to push up, as we know, from donations and campaign as he moves his presidential campaign forward. So there needs to be a balance to that. But Donald Trump, to your point, is his own worst enemy. There's some people who talk and talk. He just has the platform, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, he clearly thinks all attention's good. And I think a lot of people have come to believe that he's correct about that, partly because of 2016. I remain skeptical. I actually think things have inverted a little bit. I want to get your reaction because you worked the Manhattan DA's office under Morgenthau, who was 2 DAs ago. The DA between Bragg and Morgenthau, Cy Vance, had this to say on Meet the Press. I thought it was interesting. There was, of course, a federal case, Southern District, that was not pursued by the Manhattan DA. Here's what he had to say about that. Take a listen.
I don't want to get into the deliberations that might be covered by grand jury material, but as I believe you know, I was asked by the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District to stand down on our investigation, which had commenced involving the Trump Organization. And as you know, as someone who respects that office a great deal and believing that they may have perhaps the best laws to investigate, I did so.
Seems germane to me that the feds asked the Manhattan DA to stand down when people turn around and say, well, why now?
Well, we don't know if it's the exact same investigation.
Of course.
We have different prosecutors, we have a different office, and it may be an offshoot.
Right.
So that's a fair statement on his part, but let's find out tomorrow what this is about.
We're going to find out. Charles Coleman, Jeremy Saland, thank you both.
Thank you.